Hello, and thank you for joining me for this extended reading. We're going to look at what other situations you see this energy playing out. So, in other words, we're going to give you more examples. Okay, but then is it two cards together or is it one card? Interesting. So I've got three cards which we'll read separately. We've got Princess of Wands, we've got Four of Cups, and then together we have the Queen of Wands and the Tower. So the situations where these affect you: Four of Cups, missed opportunities, missed social opportunities. I want to be more specific. Someone wanting your attention, someone wanting to connect with you and you not wanting to connect with them because you've been burned too much in the past, or you feel like there's nothing left for you, and so you don't want to take up or take on another social interaction, so you do miss that connection with someone else. Princess of Wands, this affects your courage or your bravery, your willingness to try something new or to be your own person. So this affects the expansiveness of your heart, and I want to say it's also the flow of your intuition, because your intuition is telling you to do or be things that are maybe outside the norm. And this energy of being afraid of regret or not seeing the regrets in a positive light, it prevents part of you from expressing yourself. I want to say it keeps you from dancing. So it keeps you kind of in a more predictable, traditional way of being, rather than a free-flowing kind of hippie kind of person. But I don't want to label this too strong. It's more that you haven't allowed yourself to fully express the extent of your personality. Now, this Queen of Wands with the Tower is really interesting, because there's something about when you assert your power, or when you bring the full force of your power forward, and then we have the Tower. So it's the Tower first and then the Queen of Wands, where the Tower breaks and the Queen of Wands comes out. So it's like it takes these extreme situations for you to really assert yourself and to assert your true power. Instead of your true self and true power just being there all the time, you have to wait until it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and then you finally do something about it. So, all of this can be mitigated or resolved or healed if you start to look at the growth in these past experiences, if you start to look at how these past experiences were good for you and how they taught you more about who you truly are. Okay, another message from the fairies. Okay, Seven of Earth and the Six of Earth. And then we want a major arcana. Actually, we want two major arcanas. Death and the Hierophant. Okay, so we're still looking at transformation. So 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's interesting. We have a sequence of sorts. Death is 4, Hierophant is 5, 6 of Earth, 7 of Earth. Okay, but the Death card is out of sequence. So this is a very powerful time when you are finally ready to move on from these outdated social contracts that were based on inequality, that were based on power belonging to one side and not the other, that didn't seem fair. And the Hierophant is really getting to the bottom of all of this. It's really getting to the root of what's going on. And you're finally at this level where you're ready to move and you're ready to transform this. And we can't sit with these old ways of being any longer. And so, as we're in this process of evolving the patriarchy towards a more equal accepting of diversity and looking at diversity as a good thing because it strengthens our positions, as we're moving that forward, the ideas of imbalances are going to leave. The thoughts that they have more and I have less, or these are the haves and these are the have-nots, and that's just the way it is, that is going to change. Their seven of earth. We're getting to the point where we're looking back saying, is this really the best we can do? Is this really how we want to go through life? But there's something else in here. It's tied back to this card. In the past, we have valued conformity, Hierophant. Okay, do what the situation says, or do what the family says, do what the structure says, do what the institution says, and even schools, right? High schools, worse for this. Our whole culture values conformity. But if we allow ourselves to go through the death card and say, okay, conformity has to go, we then see not only, even though we had conformity in the past, we had an imbalance of power, we see how much we learned if we were on the lesser end, if that makes any sense. So if we perceive that we were not given as much or not given as much help as someone else, we see actually that we got a different kind of benefit. We got a different kind of learning. So here, the hummingbirds have everything they need. The crow barely has even water. You know, it's kept alive, but it's had to learn harder lessons of self-reliance and toughness and willpower, where it's been maybe a little easy for these hummingbirds. So the question there is, well, who's been really better off? The ones who were handed things on a silver platter, or the ones who had to get through life with some grit? Because maybe that is what is going to help us right the true imbalance, is looking at things when you have to give grit, looking at that as somehow something bad. When you have to go through hard ordeals or hard trials in life, we come to the conclusion that that's somehow bad and it's something that we don't ever want to go through again. That's our regret. But what if that's all actually good? What if that is all for a reason, but for our growth? But what if that's actually because we have more to give? When you go through adversity and you know how to walk through a difficult path, you actually have more to give. And giving is really the measure of abundance. If you have more than enough and you can give away, you're clearly abundant, right? Now, our seven of earth is asking us to see where we are. And it's telling us that this lack mentality of looking at everything that happened to us as bad, this lack mentality can also keeps feeding conformity. It keeps feeding the negative patriarchy. It keeps feeding these ideas of power being out of balance. So when we are able to really integrate and say, yeah, this wasn't great, but it was actually really good for me, that's the celebration of the difference. And that's where we're brought full circle back to here, where we can celebrate how we were different, how they made us different, and how that was a good thing, and how we can all build a stronger world together because of these differences. All right, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you again.